People of the internet, apparently Tony Hinchcliffe hates Anthony Jeselnik, and we'll find out why in today's video by American Redact, why Tony Hinchcliffe hates Anthony Jeselnik. So please like and subscribe if that's your thing. Get ready, buckle in,
So during
bow.
the latest episode of Kill Tony, Tony Hinchcliffe threw some pretty passive-aggressive shots at Anthony Jeselnik and his comedy routine, criticizing him for various things that Tony ironically does himself, like taking too long to get to the punchline, making fun of others instead of himself, and revolving his comedy around made-up characters rather than real-life scenarios.
Wait, doesn't a lot of Anthony Jeselnik's comedy involve kids too? Just saying, like half his new special is about kids.
And just for some context here before I show that clip, this was all in comparison to Tony's new golden ticket winner, whose delivery sounds eerily similar to Jeselnik's.
That was absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
I love your delivery. It's very, very dry. It's almost Jeselnik-esque, but you make fun of yourself and you do more than one punchline every 3.5 minutes. So it's a total different vibe. It's absolutely incredible.
Thank you.
Am I the only one here that's siding with Tony on this one? Jeselnik, I can't stand Jeselnik. Like some of the stuff he talks about is just gross and he's obnoxious, and and I agree. He doesn't look at himself. And if he looked at himself, you could see that he's just like oozing with ego, and not a big fan of Jeselnik. So, I mean, this is the one thing me and Tony Hinchcliffe have in common.
You acknowledge that you're human and and you make
And I think Tony should acknowledge he's human too, because coming out to a Metallica song, you know what I mean? You got a Metallica song intro. Like you're some god or like a professional wrestler, you know, it's weird.
Make fun of yourself sometimes and real things, not just made up characters. And I love that.
And just based off Red Band and Adam Ray's reactions alone here, you can kind of tell that these comments from Tony weren't really intended to just be friendly banter for Jeselnik. Like, these shots felt kind of personal. And the reason for that is because, well, if you don't remember by now, around last November, Jeselnik made it his sole mission in life to tell the world just how hacky Tony Hinchcliffe and pretty much the entire Rogan sphere was as a whole.
You know what's funny about these two guys? Right? They've got this beef and they're both saying these things about each other but basically that they both suck. And you know the truth of all of this is they're both right about each other. Like, they both suck. They both are hacks, and they're both full of themselves, shit, and their ego. So what are we arguing about, folks? These guys are right. They both suck. You know what I mean? Yeah, Anthony Jeselnik, dude, that guy, boy, if there was a game where he could drop kick somebody in the face, it would be his. I'd lay $1,000 down just to, or a fuck to a. Yeah, it's stupid. Come on.
One of his most brutal insults being a quote he made for a popular news article where he called Tony a troll basking in the shadow of Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
but that
he's
quote
right.
was just the tip of the iceberg for Jeselnik calling out Tony and the Mothership comedians. He also went after them pretty hard on a slew of different podcasts, with one of them being Dan Le Batard's podcast, where he labeled Tony Hinchcliffe and Joe Rogan's humor as cringy shock comedy, since they pretty much just use slurs and offensive language to shock people instead of making them laugh.
I just keep, like, I'm agreeing with what they're both saying about each other and Joe Rogan. Like, the real culprit, you know who you have to get rid of? Just like scrub him from the whole comedy scene. Like, everybody ban Joe Rogan so that he can never do another comedy set. And then the people that say don't ban Joe Rogan, ban them too. Joe Rogan removed, and all of his influence removed from comedy. It would be like, you know, after you have a big forest fire, it just lays bare and you're like, everything's destroyed. That's comedy right now. But as soon as Joe Rogan goes, the fire clears, and then the little green sprouts of new life start popping through the ground. That's what you need. You need to get Joe Rogan, just scrub him from the comedy scene, say, no, Joe Rogan, you can't do comedy. No. And it would be better, man.
I'll hear this. People would say, is there any line for you? I would not use a racial slur. I would not use an anti-gay slur. And I will make gay jokes. I will make racial jokes. But I think once you use the slur, I think you're dead in the water. I've thrown comics under the bus for using slurs before. Because I just think it's got no business in stand-up comedy. So I would never do that. I wouldn't call it a line because I'd be happy to talk about these subjects, but you have to do it in a smart way. Again, you want people laughing, not just like that can't be all there is. It's got to be a laugh in there. And people
it can't be provocative for the sake of provoking.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of this, right, when I see this, like this beef, right? I understand it because in my career path, I wanted to like be the best and stuff. And I didn't realize that it takes time and working on your craft and stuff. And then eventually you get smarter and you realize like, oh, you're doing this pretty good, And then if you could, you know the progression, right? But I don't understand why these people like worry about the other people. You know what I mean? In their thing. They worry about the other people in comedy. Because at some point, like what we're doing on YouTube, there's a ton of people. Everyone's bigger than me in this comedy space, right? I'm just a little guy, but like, who cares? There's something out there for everybody. So you got to go get yours, I always say, a lot. Someone complained about that the other day and I might have banned him because who cares?
And that pretty much sums up the comedy style of most of the big names that perform at the Mothership. I mean, even Shane Gillis came out to say that comics in the Mothership were going a bit overboard with the slurs.
Comedy movies are back.
True.
In a big way.
Pendulum swung.
Pendulum's
fully swung.
Maybe too far. Head down to the Mothership, you go, ooh.
Yeah.
Pendulum's maybe swung a little too far. Not everyone has to say it.
True.
Every single set.
So in that,
that's crazy, man. Like for me, for Shane Gillis to do that publicly, like at this point, Shane Gillis is his own thing. The Rogan sphere does not dictate his success whatsoever. Like, as far as in comedy, I'm not saying in podcasting, but in comedy, I think Shane Gillis has surpassed Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan hasn't been on SNL twice, right? And SNL, like, I have my feelings. I remember when I was younger, watching it all the time. It was pretty good. But despite your feelings, like, getting on SNL is like a pretty big deal that a very select few get the invite for. And Shane Gillis has got it twice after being fired. So if Shane Gillis is saying this, like, that is kind of scary because you wonder, well, what are they saying in the Mothership? What is the thing that they're saying, And it's kind of creepy. When Shane says it, it gives me really creepy vibes.
At Dan Le Batard podcast, Jeselnik goes on to say that he's simply just embarrassed by these guys. Because as provocative as all the Rogan comedians are, as soon as someone has an issue with what they're saying, they get all sensitive and pissy about it, which to Jeselnik is an embarrassment.
And if you're provocative for the sake of being provocative, which again, okay, you can't complain about it. You can't be provocative for the sake of being provocative and be like, why aren't you laughing? You guys don't fucking get it. Like, that's what embarrasses me about modern stand-up comedy is the complaining from people who are just so clearly trying to provoke.
So you get bothered by the comedians that are complaining about what the present climate is?
I'm embarrassed by it. It doesn't bother me so much. It just feels like, why are we complaining?
And I really think the final straw that did it for Jeselnik was when Tony bombed at the largest Trump rally of the year, where he performed the same shock comedy that Anthony Jeselnik was referring to in the Dan Le Batard podcast. And just in case you forgot, this is when Tony referred to Puerto Rico as a floating island of garbage and
It's funny, his arms out like that, him standing there looking, you could just see Tony's ego like, y'all don't get it? Why don't you get it? Like, Oh, man. It's actually rather insane. It's rather insane, but you look at it now, the arc of Tony, it's insane. The fact that Tony did this and this happened, I still don't. The way America was when I grew up, never in your life would you imagine a comedian bombing at like this crucial rally for this fight for America. You know what I mean? Lord. And Netflix gave him a deal. This is just, listen, if anybody tells you can't do anything, you're too bad, you're too crazy, listen, it's not true. What's really interesting, what really keeps me motivated on this Joe Rogan sphere world is it's like watching this grand experiment of human, I don't even know what to call it. Let's just say of the humans, you know? It's wild.
Made additional derogatory remarks about Latinos and other racial and ethnic groups. So after that entire disaster, Jeselnik kind of wanted to space himself away from the whole Rogan comedy world. So he additionally went on to his own podcast to speak about it, stating that Tony's ego has gotten completely out of control ever since the roast of Tom Brady, which I am totally not taking any credit for.
I didn't know that one.
Speaking of Trump rallies, does anybody want to ask me about Tony Hinchcliffe? Does anyone want my opinion on that one?
Yeah. What did you think for the week where Tony Hinchcliffe was getting shit on, but then it didn't matter at all?
I think it was very funny. Again, in a way of not the way Tony wanted it to be funny. And no one mentioned that. Everyone's like, that joke was out of bounds, that he shouldn't have done that. I think that as a comedian, especially, I think maybe in all art forms, or maybe in all of life, the most dangerous time for you in your career is right after you've had a big success, because you get real amped up and you want to do it again as fast as you can. I think he did that. I think he did that roast of Tom Brady and got real high on himself. And again, I'm not going to like point you to the interviews, but like Google Tony Hinchcliffe interview in the past like 4 months. It's fucking insane how out of control his ego is. And again, like you're a performer, you get that out of control ego, ride the wave, enjoy it. It was.
I don't understand why these guys are talking. I guess I do the same thing, really, but I don't consider them like my peers or somebody I'm competing with. Like I talk about the Rogan sphere. I have no desire whatsoever to be a comedian. I know everyone keeps asking, where's my set? Hell if I know. I was just interested in this and I talk about it. So I view it, I view it like I'm outside of it. Like I'm reading history, you know, and we as comedy content creator, critiquer people are all just the journalists, just giving you the play-by-play and giving you, news. They didn't used to give you their opinion, right? But now all the news anchors give your opinion. So do we. And that's how I view it. But I don't understand why these guys are just getting so upset. They have different fan bases. And so these people don't have to worry about each other, right? They just do their own thing and their fans enjoy it.
It was disastrous from a like of what you chose to joke about. Like he just did a stand-up set thinking it's like the Tony Hinchcliffe show and just made everybody mad at him. I think it was a terrible venue to do stand-up in. He acted like he was just doing stand-up at Madison Square Garden, which he was not. I think it's cool to open up a Trump rally? No, I do not. Do I think it's cool to open up a Kamala rally? No, I do not. Neither of those things are cool, especially not Trump. Nothing to do with Trump is cool. And I think he did a bad job of being like, I'm going to kill with these edgy jokes. You're not there for that.
Man, that's our boy, Anthony Jeselnik. I mean, it might be a stretch, but I love the thought that he might have actually watched my video on Tony Hinchcliffe that summer, because what he said here was kind of what I touched on in that video. Like Tony Hinchcliffe's ego completely exploded after the roast of Tom Brady, which was arguably the height of his career. And as Jeselnik referred to, during all the interviews that Tony did after the roast, you could just tell that he was high on the essence of his own farts, especially in that one episode of Two Bears, One Cave he did after the roast, where Tony was acting kind of like a god amongst men with Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer, especially since Tom and Bert bombed at the roast in comparison to Tony's set.
Sent them a script. They send their script, like their punch-up script, combine the two.
Yeah, you're like, that's good enough.
Kind of.
That's great.
I'll tell you what.
No reason to work on this anymore. It's just the most watched thing ever.
First and foremost, all you should be saying is thank you, Bert and Tom, because without us, it is a bunch of people doing the exact same thing.
Right.
Like we broke up. We definitely.
Yeah,
thank you
it was
to
like
Kim Kardashian.
it was a comedy up until you guys started. Then you guys got to really change the tone a bit. You had to make everybody appreciative of laughter.
You know, I'll say this. Bert Kreischer might be like a wild human being, and a wild human being everyone likes to talk about. But he sure does know how to make money. I mean, look at all the things Bert does. All right, I'm going to hit you with a conspiracy theory right here. I think one day Bert's going to do like that Nicky Avocado, you know? Where he was just all, I don't remember what he said, but this whole time he was playing a character and really he was just the puppet master. I think it could happen. You know, Bert might be smarter than all of us. You just wait.
I had no idea. I told him this.
I'm still living in oblivion. I had a blast. I think we did great. I've not met one person that did not like what we did.
So yeah, as you can see in that clip, Hinchcliffe was completely on top of the world in that moment. But just like a shitty meme coin does after soaring to the moon, Tony's ego got rug pulled into oblivion in one of the most embarrassing moments of his career at the Trump rally. Like, I'm pretty sure that was the only moment during election season that actually united Democrats and Republicans alike. Like recognizing that Tony's a hack was the only thing that brought them together. So on top of that entire shitstorm that happened to Tony, for him to see Anthony Jeselnik publicly tear him to shreds like that on multiple occasions, I mean, that might have been a bigger blunder to his ego than anything the...
Dude, I don't know why all these people just don't egg each other on, man. This stuff is funny and it would be great for content. I want them to not take it so personally and just to keep feeding it. Feed the egos and create great content opportunities because it's fascinating. It's like you're at a zoo and you're watching the dolphins fight each other.
Mainstream media ever had to say about him. Because, like I touched on in other videos in this channel in the past, the only opinions that these Rogan guys care about is that of other comics or successful people. Like, even if you have a PhD in your respective field, you're still a part of the working class. You're poor, and therefore, what you say simply does not matter to them. So Anthony Jeselnik is pretty much enemy number one for the entire Rogan sphere, and honestly, I think he prefers it that way. I mean, it was literally one of the talking points in his newest stand-up special, where he basically mocked the way that all the mothership guys complain about cancel culture, while at the same time saying jokes that are just provocative and not actually funny.
I'm against cancel culture. Thank you. That's my impression of a shit comic trying to get on Rogan. In 20 years of stand-up comedy, I've been asked the same questions over and over and over again. The question I get asked the most by far is, Anthony, what do you think about cancel culture? Doesn't it make you mad? Aren't you scared? What do you think about cancel culture? So let me be clear. I don't give a fuck about cancel culture. What I am sick of are comedians complaining about cancel culture. It's not that hard. Do your job. And yes, I did mention Joe Rogan. Guys, do not get me wrong. I like Joe. Joe's my friend. Joe's a good guy. But if you listen to his podcast, you're a fucking loser.
Jeselnik also appeared on Tom Papa's podcast.
I don't know if I'd say that far. I mean, like, if he was talking about Kill Tony, I'd be like, Jeselnik, no man could have said finer words than what you had just said about Kill Tony fans right now. But Joe Rogan, I think of Joe Rogan as Joe Rogan lured a lot of people in under false pretenses. He made a lot of people believe he was something different. And, you know, you got to give people a little bit of credit when it comes to that, you know, because sometimes there's a con that gets everyone, and he had a really good con. Like, you know, you wonder why people get into cults. There's a con that just specifically speaks to them. You know, I've lost some money before. Someone said something, damn, whoa, where's my money? It happens, you know? So I can't fully agree on that.
Has to talk about this a little bit more in depth, which sheds a little bit of light on Jeselnik's opinion on this whole Rogan crew, because he basically says that comedians need to be individual thinkers, and the groupthink kind of echo chamber that the Rogan sphere is in right now is approaching comedy in a really different way, which Tom Papa has to agree with.
But I hate people complaining about cancel culture. I hate comics complaining in general. It's the second comedy boom. It's not going anywhere. People are making more money than ever before. And Dave Chappelle, who's won every award in the world, is complaining that cancel culture is making his job harder. It's like, your job shouldn't be easy. Right. If you're going to make that much fucking money, like, hey, maybe it should be a little hard. You know, I got no issue with that.
I love that line. You're a comedian. Do your job. It's just so perfect.
I think it's kind of groupthink, and I'm surprised that I'm attacked by saying cancel culture is not a thing. That people that just not parroting what every other comic is saying would somehow be seen as treasonous and not as an individual. Like, I have my own thoughts.
Right,
I don't
exactly.
and I would be way more successful. And I'd have way more money if I did complain about cancel culture. If I went the other way that a lot of these guys go. And I think it's stupid, and I'm happy to fight about it.
Yeah.
I think it's good for comedy when two comics are at odds or talking shit on each other. I think it's good for the art form.
Yeah,
but now everyone's got to be friends.
Right.
You've got to worry about what Joe thinks about these things.
Yeah.
You know, and have Joe mediate fights. And I like Joe, but I don't get the whole, like, stand-up comedy. I got into it because you get to do it by yourself.
Right.
You go on stage alone.
Yeah, with your audience.
Yeah. So these, like, well, let's get a group together. I never understood it.
I know, I'm the same way. I have a real hard time with it. I don't want to be a part of a club.
No.
And what's so ironic is that if you're not in step with every aspect of what they're talking about, then they kick you out. Well, how anti-comedy is that?
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Because you don't think the way we all think.
Right.
It's like, how is that?
Yes, exactly.
Shouldn't I be celebrated for thinking differently?
Exactly.
Isn't that the point of comedy? Is to think differently from everyone else?
And that
I can see where they're coming from. I am not, if there's any kind of bane in my existence, it's just groupthink, just people just following things just to follow things so that they can get benefits, but a huge amount of people have to. Okay, it's like the rich versus the poor. The rich get to have anything they ever want, never have to worry, and they make all this money while a majority of people fight every day to survive. You know what I mean? They have to work really hard to survive. When really everybody, if we all just allowed everybody to think freely, and, you know, we might have an abundance for all. I don't know. Maybe I am just a romantic about people being better. I don't know.
pretty much brings us back to today. I mean, there's almost no way that Tony didn't catch wind of everything Jeselnik had to say about him and his dearest friends. So now that his newest golden boy sounds exactly like Jeselnik, this was Tony's moment.
It's almost Jeselnik-esque, but you make fun of yourself and you do more than one punchline every 3.5 minutes. So it's a total different vibe. It's absolutely incredible.
Thank you.
You acknowledge that you're human and and you make fun of yourself sometimes and real things, not just made up characters.
Like, see, I can understand Tony because I'm not a fan of like Jeselnik's comedy, but the thing I'm not a fan of is just the arrogance and acting like you're a little better than everybody. That's the thing at Jeselnik I just don't like. I just don't like it because those people, they make it really hard for everybody else because they're so opinionated that their opinionated nature just becomes an obstacle. No matter how good they are, no matter how good they are for your business, they end up just being a bad friend. And I just don't like, I don't like the superiority, you know? It just doesn't make sense to me. I just don't like it.
And I love that.
So yeah, guys, pretty petty shit from Hinchcliffe as usual. I mean, you can almost feel a hint of jealousy for Jeselnik during this sneak diss. It's almost like Tony knows that Anthony Jeselnik's a far better comedian than Tony ever will be, which probably drives him insane. Like, even though Jeselnik may take a while
Okay.
to get to the bit,
Whoa. They are both Jeselnik and Tony are both being petty and jealous. You can't just put this all, because Tony has good points, just like Jeselnik has good points, and then they're both talking shit. Whoa. Don't slob the knob. Don't do it. Don't do that. You gotta be fair. They are both being petty. Talking shit is petty on both sides, because like reality, how I do it, I just don't care. Who cares what other people say? I can't change what I do. And if you haven't learned in your life, you will never meet the standards that society sets for you. And no matter how holy, how accurate, how detailed, how perfect of a video I might create, there is always someone in line willing to talk shit, just like these two are talking shit. And when you talk shit, it's petty. You're just jumping into somebody's day to try and make them feel bad. It's petty. But also, the reason we all do it is it's fun. So, I just want you to, everybody to admit that this is something 100% of people should admit. Talking shit is a little petty. But on the other hand, it's fun. And that, folks, is why we all do it. Okay? Can we just admit it? Let's try not. I like in the 90s used to just talk shit for fun. It wasn't about who was like better. It was like who could come out with the biggest like burn, you know? I don't know. Honestly, all y'all just take life too seriously. It is not that serious. I think when I die, I'm going to tell myself, I wish I would have taken it 100% less serious than I did. I wish. We are just giant failures, folks. You know, we are giant failures. We make mistakes, and it's okay, because through all of that failure, we create moments that make it all worth it. You know? I fail at this YouTube thing a lot, but every once in a while, no, it's actually fun all the time, because I like talking shit, and look, here we are being humans.
when that punchline lands, it's likely going to be funnier than anything Tony Hinchcliffe's ever uttered into a microphone in his life. It's also insanely ironic how Tony criticizes Jeselnik for making fun of other people and not himself. It's almost like he forgets that that's the entire premise of Kill Tony. But anyways, guys, that's pretty much it for the video. Do let me know in the comments, though, what you think of this whole thing. And until next time, thank you for watching.
I don't even know what to do with it. You know who I feel like, kind of? I feel like Nate Diaz right after he beat McGregor won. Like, I'm not surprised. Like, I've been underneath everybody's nose. All my peers. But it's, you know, they know what's going on. But
yeah,
now,
after that, I mean, just, you were a superstar coming out of that thing.
And if you only knew, I'm about to spill the beans on these. They don't even know. I'm about to give them the inside scoop. They didn't want me to make fun of this. They didn't want me to make fun of that. And I said, okay, just the naughty kid from back in Youngstown, Ohio was like, okay, I won't do that. All right, I'll do that. I'll play by your rules.
And then you just get up there and you just...
Right. Fuck the world. They gave me a chance, you know what I mean? They gave a hungry wolf a chance at showing what I... Know you like to bang, you don't stay.